Literally, I got my hand on my mouth like, what? You rest your case? We've been sitting in the courtroom for 2 days, listening to people paint this picture about how bad of a person Julius is. He's a murderer. And then when it's your opportunity to defend him, you say, I don't have nothing to say? So, man, we were flabbergasted, Melanie.
Today, I'm going to speak to Jimmy Lawson, best friend of Julius Jones, a man who was convicted and sentenced to death for a crime that substantial evidence shows he did not commit. One example of this evidence is that Chris Jordan, who told the police Julius had shot Paul Howell, bragged to his fellow inmates that he himself was the one to actually shoot Paul Howell, and Julius was not even present at the scene of the crime. Also, the one witness, Paul Howell's sister, described the shooter as having hair sticking out of his bandana. A picture of Julius taken 9 days before the shooting shows Julius to have extremely short hair. Chris Jordan, on the other hand, has hair that fits that description. Julius filed an application for clemency, which begins as follows. Admittedly, I have done some stupid things in my life, and I am ashamed, embarrassed, and repentant of my youthful actions. But as God is my witness, I was not involved in any way in the crimes that led to Paul Howell being shot and killed on July 28, 1999. I have spent the past 20 years on death row for a crime I did not commit, did not witness, and was not at. I feel terrible for Mr. Howell and his family, but I was not responsible. I did not have a chance to tell my story to the jury at my trial because my lawyers rested the case without calling any witnesses, including my mother, father, sister, and brother, who would have told the jury I was home with them when this crime was committed. To read the rest of Julius's statement, please click the link in the description below. In the description, there are also ways you can help save Julius's life. In this interview, Jimmy will talk about his friend Julius and his horrific experience being framed for a crime he didn't commit.
Hi. Hey, how you doing, Melanie?
So how's it going?
It's going good. Busy time for me.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for coming on here because I know this subject is probably really difficult to talk about, even though you probably have to talk about it all the time. I really appreciate it. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Of course. Let's start from the beginning. How did you meet Julius?
Going back to 4th or 5th grade here in Oklahoma City, his family and my family stayed in the same neighborhood, actually 4 or 5 houses down from each other. We kind of kicked it off, man. The cool thing about Julius is that his family and my family had very similar beliefs from a religious standpoint and just from a humanistic standpoint. And then we both played basketball together. So basketball, family life. And then as we got a little older, through middle school and high school, that's when I began to really figure out that Julius had a special gift, mental gift. I tell people all the time, he's probably one of the smartest people that you ever know, borderline genius. Coming out of high school, he and I were the only two African-American males in our high school class that had a 3.9 GPA and graduated in the top 10% of our class. And better yet, he didn't even choose the athletic route because he could have played football or basketball in college. But what did he do? He chose to do the academic route, becoming one of the first African Americans to have a full academic scholarship to the University of Oklahoma. So Julius kind of broke some barriers, if you will. Again, man, you get to know Mama and Papa Jones. If you knew the family, you would say, oh, there's no way. There's no way that could be.
So you talk about how you and Julius shared similar religious beliefs and foundations. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, sure. So, we both come from Christian backgrounds. We grew up in that dynamic where being truthful, having integrity, leading by example, and always doing the right thing was kind of the mantra that we live by. So everything that you saw that the other side of the fence tried to say Julius was, it's an absolutely opposite of who he really was.
What are some of your favorite memories of Julius before he was arrested?
So I think my favorite memory is we were going to senior prom. We were all suited and booted and ready to go. So back then, you were either the typical, black tux or white tux or a combination of both. So Julius decided to do way outside the box. So he did an all-white tux with a red interior, cummerbund and bow tie. So we're getting out the truck, going into the prom. Well, typically you're going to have some wingtip shoes or some type of fancy shoes on to go with your tux. So being Julius and who he is, he comes out with some 1998 patent leather Jordans. Right? So he's got the tux on with some basketball shoes. And we were like, what? And so, when we got into the prom, everybody was like, oh, hey, did you see JJ's outfit? He got the Jordans on with it. So he kind of stole the show, man. We thought we was sharp. So we were feeling some type of way when we was like, hold on, Jay, you coming with the tennis shoes and you killing it? So that was pretty cool. They gave him the best dress, so he killed that. He took pride in, being different, being that leader. That little story right there is just another evidence, man, of who he was.
So what do you remember about Chris Jordan or Liddell?
Liddell King. Chris Jordan went to school with us, of course, played basketball with us on the team. So he transferred into John Marshall, so we didn't know him for a whole lot of time. But, Chris, man, ran with a different crowd than we did. He ran with the gang-type crowd. Me and Julius was on the other side of the fence. We were the good guys, if you will. So, we never really associated ourselves with Chris. When people found out that West Side is hanging around, Julius, yada, 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 that caused some Liddell King was kind of a guy that was from our neighborhood per se, but we didn't really know him like that because he was a little bit older. But I did hear that, he had some dealings on the street level, if you will. So, but that's really all I knew about Liddell until this went down, and then they start kind of tying in and taking some stuff from Liddell from what he said and how all these people's connected together. I was like, hold on, that doesn't make no sense to me.
So what do you remember about the day that Paul Howell was murdered and the days following?
So, when all that went down across the news, they're blasting it. Hey, which, back then the vibe and Evan was like, evidence, 90 and 95% Caucasian. It's supposed to be of the upper echelon for Oklahoma City. I'm saying it like that because that's how that's how they used to be. Like, this is Edmond. This can't happen in Edmond. So the media was pushing. We've got to find him. We've got to find a person. We got to find a person. So I'm watching on the news like everybody else. It's the day that happened. And then a few days later, if not a week, coming home from work, and they've got my whole street blocked off. You got paddy wagons, you got Oklahoma County Sheriff, Oklahoma City the Police Department, Edmond Police Department, ATF, SWAT team. It was probably the most cops I've ever seen in my life in one area, and helicopters too, flying around. And the county sheriff, comes up to me. He's like, well, you can't get into your house in your neighborhood right now because we're looking for a murderer. I'm like, wow. Because in my mind, Melanie, is that my neighborhood at the time was more predominantly white than black. So I said, they're probably looking for a white guy. So when I get close, the guy's like, no, we are looking for a gentleman named Julius Jones. I'm like, hold on. The only Julius I know is my friend Julius, right? And he's kind of pointing at the house. That's when reality hit me, that they're really looking for Julius as the murder suspect. No way. My friend being able to kill somebody else? Nah, ain't happening. So that transpired for about another 7 to 8 hours. They had the house surrounded. Of course, he was not home at the time. I felt so bad for Mr. and Mrs. Jones. Those law enforcement tore their house upside down. They literally, from the inside out, just gutted it out. They didn't find the person they were looking for at the time.
But they did find planted evidence, right?
So after they apprehended Christopher Jordan, they put Christopher Jordan in the back of the police car, drove him up to the house, right, and says, where's the murder weapon? Of course, if you did not have any previous information to where particular stuff could be, then how would you know? So, they pointed the law enforcement exactly where Chris hid the gun and the bandana. So, right off the bat, if we're listening to this on the news and they say that, Mr. Jordan points out this type of evidence to law enforcement, right off the bat, they're going to say, duh, probably because he put it there. Right? We were like scratching our heads watching TV like, hold on, a 12-year-old can figure that out. How are these law enforcement people not able to figure that out? That's basic.
Seems like they just zoomed in on Julius and then he was their only target and all they cared about was getting him the death penalty, really.
Yeah, that was it. A little caveat probably you don't know. So before trial starts, we had an amazing attorney that was really good with capital punishment cases. And about a month or month and a half before trial was supposed to start, the gentleman dies. He had a heart attack. And so that left us in limbo about, what to do. We spent some money. So that's how we ended up, Melanie, with a public defender. The system was really smart about who they wanted to have this case. So, of course, David McKenzie got assigned the case along with Robin Bruno. Well, David McKenzie never tried a capital murder case. And then to have a high-profile case like this, it was a lose-lose from a representation standpoint because we knew, A, he didn't have any experience. Number two, you're going to get Bob Mason, who had this mantra about, if you kill in my county, then you die. Whether you was guilty or innocent, that's just kind of how he rolled. it was a very unique uphill battle from day one, from when the trial started.
And Bob Macy, didn't he get 54 people the death penalty, and then half of the cases were reversed?
Yeah, he ended up having 54 or 55 convictions, death row convictions, and like 22 or 23 have been overturned. Is that crazy? That's insane. Half of your convictions have been exonerated.
Were for death, so they could have been too late in all of those cases.
Exactly.
Did you go to the trial? Did you see it happen?
I did. So, first 2 days were the prosecutorial process when Bob Mason was presenting his facts. Of course, you had Christopher Jordan, you had Liddell, you had Cameron Lottie as all the informants pointing the finger at Julius, blah, 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 blah. So that took about a day or two. Then on day 3, it was time for the defense to provide their presentation. So David McKenzie does the impossible. Melanie, he says, not only I'm not going to call any friends or family up, I'm not going to put Julius on the stand either. And then he says, you know what? Matter of fact, I don't have much to say. So we rest our case. Right? Literally, I got my hand on my mouth like, what? You rest your case? We've been sitting in the courtroom for 2 days, listening to people paint this picture about how bad of a person Julius is. He's a murderer. And then when it's your opportunity to defend him, you say, I don't have nothing to say? So, man, we were flabbergasted, Melanie. That was day 3.
Did you feel like there was racism involved in the trial?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's pretty much the whole gist of what we're seeing now in America here in 2020. The same stuff that's going on now was the same way it was back in the 90s. And you got a jury that was white, and then you have a prosecutorial team that's not diversified. You've got judges who don't look like, many of the suspects who they're judging. So when you walk into that environment, you could feel that this is not a winnable environment. I knew in my gut feeling that it wasn't going to be good. So what I did was I just hung out outside of the court on the day of the actual announcement of the verdict. So somebody actually came out and told me it was a very challenging day. You feel like you lost some of you because, you're connected with somebody like a brother, right? Like a real brother. And to know that he's innocent made it even worse.
God, I can't even imagine.
So it's like you're sitting there watching your sister get sentenced, and they say, Melody, your sister is going to die, right? But how would that make you feel? That's how I felt.
Horrible. So then what happened from there?
They transferred him to his permanent location, which is the Oklahoma State Penitentiary. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the conditions that Julius has to deal with on a day-to-day basis. So normally you only get a shower 3 times a week. You're in your cell 23 hours per day. And if you do want to get out for that 1 hour, they shackle you up, which takes about 10 to 15 minutes, take you outside, unshackle you, which takes another 10 minutes. Then you're outside for only about 12 to 15 minutes. Then they shackle you back up, which is another 15 minutes. Then they take you back in. So he says, man, if I want to go out for the hour, I only have like 15 to 17 minutes worth of free time, if you will, before they shackle you up and take you back in. Isn't that crazy?
How often does he choose to go outside?
Not very often. He probably go out once every maybe couple of weeks because it's such a draining process.
So awful. How do you keep up with the fight? It's been 21 years. How do you keep up the energy and keep fighting for Julius?
That's a great question, man. It boils down to that notable term that people use called the golden rule. Treat people how you want to be treated, right? You heard that growing up. Treat people how you want to be treated. Mm-hmm. And that's always in the back of my mind. If I stop talking, if I stop advocating, if I stop being that voice, then he's not going to have a voice. That's how I keep my energy. That's what keeps me going, Melanie.
How often do you get to talk to Julius?
Maybe once or twice a week. My job when we talk, man, is just to congratulate him, to say, hey, not many people, including myself, will probably be able to hold on as long as he has been able to hold on. Because, you got to keep in mind, Melanie, before you saw the last defense, we were literally spending 12 to 15 years being silent. We didn't have a way to tell the story. So, he was just another number, just another statistic like so many others out there. So when the last defense hit, it gave Julius life. And then what people started doing, they started writing him. So this is pretty cool. The first week, he got like 700 letters after the show aired.
Wow.
How cool is that? I never forget because he called me after he started writing back to people. And he was like, man, I got to about 250 of writing people back and my hand locked up. He was very grateful, hopeful, very appreciative for people like yourself, Melanie, that believes in his innocence and are willing to tell his story, to your viewers, man.
I admire him so much for being able to hold on this long. Was there any point where you felt like he was going to give up hope?
Oh, absolutely. No, when we were going through the three Oklahoma appeal process, they weren't hearing it. They were bypassing it, coming up with all these different reasons of why they didn't want to hear the case, yada, yada, yada. That was a very dark time for Julius. Because again, here you go. He says, man, nobody wants to hear me. Nobody wants to hear my story. Nobody wants to see the facts. Why can't they see the facts, Jimmy? So once the last defense came about, I was like, oh, thank you, God. This is the chance, and it's giving him some light. It's giving him a chance to tell his story. So now he's on fire now. He really believes this is our opportunity for him to get out.
What do you think Julius would do when he gets out?
We've talked about this many times. First, he wants to start this company that is focusing on youth and teaching youth how to be successful, the keys, more importantly, teaching kids about the judicial system, right? Because we learned that once you get in, very tough to get out. He wants to set up some programs that will help mentor and guide students. That's kind of what I do now. So for my alma mater, we went to school, John Marshall, I got this mentoring program called the Impact Teams. We help teach these kids about what to do and what not to do and how to be successful. Julius wants to take that model and take it nationwide and help give back, man. He's smart enough to do it. He's got a passion for it. That's all you need. So I think that's the first thing he'll probably do. The second thing that he wants to do is that he wants to take a bath.
So what are the next steps?
So the next step is we have filed what we call a clemency petition with the Oklahoma Pardon and Parole Board of October 2019. It's a 3-step process. The first process is that the board members has to vote yes, they want to hear the case, which is phase 2 is saying, okay, now we want to hear it, make your presentation. So at that time, the attorneys and Julius will make a presentation of why he's innocent, provide some facts. If they vote yes for that, then it goes to the final phase, which is phase 3, which is for our Governor Stitt's office. So our Governor Stitt of Oklahoma has the last authority to approve or disapprove his commutation. Once it gets out, then we'll go back and we'll try to do the pardon option. That is something definitely that I hope America can continue to try to work on. Because again, if Julius is wrongfully convicted, how many other cases are that same matter? That's just not right.
So what can people do who are watching this video to help?
Viewers, what you can do right now is go to justiceforjulius.com. We've got some pre-written electronic letters that all you have to do is put your information in. It'll submit it on our behalf, and it goes straight to the Oklahoma Pardon and Parole Board and Governor Stitt office. We also have the petition on there, which has 6.6 million signatures at the moment. For those who have not seen the documentary, all you got to do is go to the website, and it's on there as well. And then you can forward it on to other people. I think the most important thing is that, in this ball game, when we're trying to save somebody's life, I would advise all of my listeners and viewers to stay strong, stay motivated about the facts of this case, and then continue to support.
Thank you so much for coming on here. It was such an honor to speak to you. I really, really hope that he gets clemency. I hope that not only for him and his family, but also for the world, because it sounds like he's going to really change the world for the better and make a positive impact.
Yes. Again, Melanie, I highly appreciate you taking your time out to believe, first of all, in his innocence, and then take a stand as you have to help tell his story. It's people like you that keeps this momentum going for us. We can't do it by ourselves. So, Ms. Berman, kudos to you for diving in and, standing up for the truth, because at the end of the day, we hope that the truth will prevail.
I hope so too. Thank you so much, Jimmy. It's so nice to meet you.
You as well. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for watching this video. Please check the description below for ways to help save Julius's life.